I'm a research scientist turned founder of a startup. My research was in dialogue systems and conversational AI, and that's the underpinning of a lot of what I'm going to be sharing about today. Because a lot of the research that has been done in the past is actually all about what's called dialogue state tracking and NLU. And then we actually don't see that too much today. And so I'm going to be introducing an old new paradigm of how to be building AI agents around understanding before action. So assume that you want to order some food. You ask the cashier at the counter for a burger. What should they do? Do they just enter your order and then you pay and you're done? Well, actually, that's not really right. They might actually ask you something like, do you want a chicken or beef sandwich? Do you want a single or a double or maybe even 3 patties? Do you want some cheese? And the classical question, do you want some fries with that? Why are they asking all these questions? It's because it's their job to understand your full intent before taking any actions. But this is sort of low stakes. Let's suppose instead that you're at the doctor's office and you say that you feel a pain around here. Well, is that your throat? Is that the neck? What sort of pain is it? For how long? The doctor is going to ask you all of these kinds of questions, like what symptoms you have, because in her head, she's trying to take all of the world knowledge that she knows about into the situation. He's actually thinking about all of these different types of options that could be a result of that simple neck pain in order to be able to narrow down into the particular path of answers that solves your specific problem. So once again, the actor here is trying to understand your experience before taking any action. Well, to put it more bluntly, the doctor is not just an LLM that is giving a wall of AI slop every single time you enter a prompt. When you say that you have neck pain, rather than just giving an answer, the conversation is going to be a little bit more structured. And the doctor is going to walk through different options in order to get to the right answer. In general, we can really look at interactions with humans as much more fluid. When you work with a colleague, you don't just give instructions, you have a conversation. There's some back and forth as you work through the problem. And we really believe, shouldn't AI agents be the same? Well, that's exactly what we've built at Soleta, is useful and reliable AI agents that engage in listening as well as talking. Now, a lot of AI agents these days are kind of just built as wrappers around LLMs that can receive an utterance and then give a coherent response. In the past year, they've learned to maybe retrieve documents and use some tools, but ultimately, they don't really understand what you want most of the time. Now, in our case, our agents are able to respond with domain expertise. And this is accomplished by really analyzing the situation first and then deciding if additional context is needed. In other words, natural language understanding. Based on this understanding, our agents will then ask for clarification as needed to engage in a real conversation. And what we believe is that useful and reliable AI assistance is only possible when the agent first aims to understand before taking action. But this intuition isn't just our feeling. In fact, natural language understanding, or NLU, is an entire field of research within AI, spanning topics from intent detection to slot filling, question generation, and ambiguity management. I would know because some of those papers that have been done are ones that I've worked on in the past with many esteemed colleagues. So this is great in theory, but then how does it play out in practice? Let's give an example. Suppose that you are a marketing manager and you want to ask the questions of how are my campaigns converting? And when that happens though, you still really need to figure out, what do we mean when we say conversion? These are the questions that we really need to understand before moving forward. Now, this is actually quite tricky. If we say something like, show me our best converting campaigns, we actually might say conversions are signups, or maybe they're purchases, or they might actually be email logins or other views. Dealing with this is not that simple. There are various trade-offs in complexity. When we're building out a dialogue state, if we have something that's too trivial or too basic, then it's not going to be powerful enough to handle the complexity found in real life. If you go the other extreme, then there's traditional semantic parsing. But this requires a PhD in linguistics to understand this tree of nouns and verbs and subjects that you maybe have studied when you're grammar school. And so as you look at these two, practically speaking, we actually need to have a dialogue state within our agent that is complex enough to model the real world, but also simple enough to label at scale. Now, This is what we've built instead, is Dana. Dana is a AI agent that works with data in your spreadsheets that operates in the complexity of real life. Dana will integrate, clean, and transform your data as easy as talking to a teammate. Dana does the work that no one else wants to do. There's no longer a need to wait on the data team just to make one change. And most importantly, because of this understanding, Dana has reliable and trustworthy answers because Dana is really trying to do something well before moving forward. Now, how does this actually work in detail? Suppose that when you're having a conversation with your agent, you say something like, fill the empty rows in the spreadsheet with the average CTR from last week. In this case, rather than just moving forward, we're going to pass it to our natural language understanding in order to say that the task is actually resolving nulls because of empty rows. Because you said CTR, we're going to say actually the metric that you care about is called click-through rate. And because you said last week, we're going to know that this time period is actually last week. Then we're going to pass it through our AI reasoning engine to calculate this actual metric. And because we know click-through rate is the name of the metric, we actually have a formula that is like coded in that's not going to make a mistake and not hallucinate. And only after we have a reliable answer will we generate a response back to you. Now, in more detail, the good explicit dialogue state should allow the agent to have its own belief of the world. In other words, it should have a world model. Additionally, a good dialogue state is viewable and observable and controllable. Next, states can be stored and retrieved for indefinitely long periods of time. And so with all of this, this is what allows our agents to do a much better job. And we will carefully engineer this in a very special way. So digging one more level deeper, rather than just high-level intents, we actually are imbuing our agents with dialogue acts, which gives us hundreds of building blocks that we can then mix and match. So for example, suppose that we had an intent, such as a query. I just want to query something within the spreadsheet. Then the associated dialogue acts might be something like filtering or grouping, sorting, joining by different types of columns. Let's instead assume now that our intent is to graph something, create a visualization. In this case, our dialogue acts might be something like creating a chart type, or a time range, or looking at a format. As a final example, suppose that we just wanted to chat about the data. Then that's our new intent, but our dialogue acts might include something like brainstorming, reviewing code, or answering FAQs. In total, these types of building blocks give us a very powerful abstraction that can be easily adapted for new domains. This basically follows directly from the NLP research, which has a task called dialogue state tracking. We can extend this even further to also include custom slot filling for even finer grained control, such as filtering for certain brands, grouping by certain months, sorting by certain metrics. Overall, what we get then is an agent, which the first one is called Dana, is a data analyst who understands. The way we build this is we start out with a blank agent. And as a company, Soleta first builds in an existing worldview. As we add on to this, Dana will listen to you and add your specific context and preferences. And then as the conversation goes further, there's a full understanding of your situation before acting. And so overall, what this shows is that when we want to calculate something like conversion rate, we're going to have multiple turns of conversation before moving forward to make sure that the answer is correct. And so this is just a quick conversation snippet where the user has started the conversation by asking about conversions. And as you can see at the very top, Dana was already asking questions about the activity type columns and viewing side or viewing product. The user then comes back to answer this question. A visit refers to the visit site activity type, and you can join with purchases table using the user ID column. Even then, Dana will continue to ask questions. Should I use checkout or add cart as the conversion event in the activity type column? So over here, if you look at the actual chart, you'll see that there's an activity type in red, and there are different types of activities that define what is an actual conversion event or a visitor event appropriately. Only afterwards will Dana actually move forward with the type of action necessary to get the job done right. Thank you for listening. I'm now open for questions and feedback from the audience. Yeah, Syria, anything that we should mention?
No, I think it was absolutely great. Do you want to share your socials? Okay, you've already shared your Twitter, but if you want, you can like tell us your LinkedIn also, and I'm sure the audience would love to connect.
Yeah, so my LinkedIn is just
Okay.
also at Soleta at AI. Definitely follow us on Twitter. We've done a lot of these kinds of video updates. And just like many other companies, we're also looking to hire amazing ML engineers. So if you're working as an ML engineer, please come talk to us. If you're a marketer who needs data to be cleaned, we'd love to talk to you as well.